and welcome to another episode of The Verdict. Today we are discussing or debating Team Djokovic or Team Kyrgios at the Australian Open, and we're talking Māori All Stars in rugby league. Before we get into it, let me introduce to you our sporting guests today. Goran Paladin, kia ora.
I didn't play much sport, but I know this guy.
You're an athlete. You're an athlete. Look at you.
Stop it. Well, you can't actually see my ripped physique because I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt for once.
It's not your shirt.
Yes.
You don't own a shirt like that, do you?
I've got several shirts that were gifted to me by my wonderful employer, Sky Television. Thank you very much. But this is out of the green room. I've left my shirt at home, kind of like the kid who forgot his homework. You know, it was eaten by the dog or whatever. But I honestly had a lovely ironed, pressed shirt ready to go, and then put it in the car.
I think you've done this to put me off my game. I was expecting something different.
Right.
It's been a couple of weeks. I've been waiting for the text to get back in this room and take you on head to head. And yep, for a start, you've got me a little bit flustered, but
okay, good.
Turn it around very quickly. Going to have to, given what we're debating today.
What was it like just sitting there, watching the shows unfold? You've got Mike Angove talking UFC, Ricky Swannell last week, and you're like, hang on a minute. I thought I was the show favourite. Where's my invite? Yeah. I can do so much better than these people.
Well, to be fair, I am surprised you're still on the seat, because I thought you got well and truly done the last couple of weeks.
Oh, come on, mate. I drew with Ricky, and Rav rescinded one of the wins for Mike Angove. I drew with him too.
It took someone rescinding a win from somebody else for you to get two draws. Rav, well done. Congratulations.
Feel free to step in.
Two draws.
You know, a bit of time to reflect on your own, chat with your family members and other people in the UFC community.
I'm already regretting that decision, okay, as soon as I did it. But it was what it was, and we have to play fair.
You've got every chance today. Every chance.
Now, before we carry on, Jeff Wilson, the man who needs no introduction, thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be back. It really is. Look, like I say, from the moment I saw that text message, that opportunity to come back, I'm here, ready to go.
Excellent.
Let's do it.
Great to have you, mate.
And for you, Goran, hopefully your notes are better prepared than your shirt today. All right.
We shall see.
Let's go over the rules before we carry on. I will put out the argument, what it will be. You will state briefly what side of the fence you will be on. Then you can go into a lot more detail as to why you are right and your mate is wrong. Then you can argue amongst yourselves, and I will come up with a final decision.
I understand.
Yes. Very familiar with it now. All right, let's get into it. Case number one. We're going across the ditch to the Australian Open. In tennis's great heavyweight battle happening right now, are you Team Djokovic or Team Kyrgios? Now, they're having a verbal spar at the moment off the court. So state what side of the fence you're on.
I am on Team Djokovic. Now, but I know, but I'm...
Excuse me while I shudder, Jeff.
Yes, I know, but to be fair, I'm not really on either side. But for the case of this argument, I'm going to go Team Djokovic. And yes, this debate and discussion they're having is off the court. But a lot of it, to me, also relates to what's happening on the court as well over a long period of time. So I'm going to argue that as much as some of Novak Djokovic's decisions are very questionable, very questionable, and we've seen that. I'm going to argue, though, there is a lot more good that he has done in and around the game of tennis, and I'm going to side with him.
Okay.
And that leaves me...
But not go to any of his parties.
That leaves me...
All right? Is that all right?
Well, I mean, do you want to take your shirt off or not? Do you want to contract coronavirus or not?
Not these days.
No. I'm in Team Kyrgios, and I love being there. I think the guy is sensational. He's wonderful for tennis. Yeah, he's made a few errors in the past, but I honestly think as he gets older, he progresses as an individual, a human being. And the difference between the two guys, Nick Kyrgios, he wears his heart on his sleeve, whereas Novak's heart is pure black. It's midnight black, and he does his best to hide it. And every now and then, the real Novak pops out and you're like, ooh, that's ugly. So I'd prefer somebody who is just honest and presents the true self to the public as opposed to whatever fabrication of a personality Novak provides us with.
Oh, there is some passion. He has wronged you somewhere.
When did he hurt you?
Just don't like him.
I
don't like him. There's something about him that rubs me up the wrong way. I'm a Roger guy, I'm a Rafa guy, and then I'm anybody who plays against Novak guy.
He's only won 8 Australian Opens, Novak Djokovic.
Oh, and he's hated in Australia.
Any respect for his tennis ability, the success that he has had as a player? I'll go and then go against Nick Kyrgios and the fact that how I believe he is not detrimental to tennis, but he is in danger of continually taking it into a place where it will lose support. It will lose sponsorship.
How? Explain to me how.
Tanking? Is that actually quitting in games? Committing
Which is something Novak Djokovic has done in the past.
To the extent of when
he walks out on games.
Verbally
He walked
abusing.
down on the Australian Open a number of years ago because it got too hot.
Okay, calm down. Jeff, continue.
Verbal abuse of spectators. Throwing a racket into the stands recently. No, Nick Kyrgios...
He was gifting it to a fan.
Gifting it to a fan when it hit him in the
To the face, yeah.
Yeah, well, pay attention, mate. He'll probably later sell that on Trade Me or whatever website they've got in Australia and make a lot of money.
Investment opportunity for the fans. Just wear your helmet. Put a mouth guard in, wear your helmet just in case.
Well, concussion is a serious issue.
The fact that you qualify for the Olympics, then you get into a spat with the Australian Olympic Committee. No, I'm not going to bother going now. The fact that you've been kicked out of the Davis Cup team and then you come back in whenever you feel like it. Oh, I've got a tight hamstring. Like I think when I look at the behaviour, and the hardest thing we've probably got for both of these players is that through this era of tennis, you're comparing them to one of the gentlemen in Roger Federer.
Sensational.
Sensational. And then you got the success that Rafa Nadal has had.
Beautiful man.
Yes.
Beautiful man.
You're sitting there going, and I talk about this a lot in regards to the judgment that goes on players now when you are providing sponsorship and support. And there's no doubt tennis players have a unique existence. Travelling the world with entourages, they are certainly treated like kings in most cases. And Novak Djokovic in recent time has, there's no doubt, through this pandemic made some poor decisions. But if I look at the fact that we're judging him, and it's hard for him, we're judging him quite often against those players I talked about, in comparison to Nick Kyrgios and his on-court behaviour, and then the fact that he brings it into, I think he brings it into disrepute because he doesn't make an effort every time he plays. He doesn't go out there and respect the opposition. There is a passion about the way that he plays the game, but I think it's uncontrolled, and I don't think it's good for the sport.
I think we might be getting a little bit too far away from the reason we're here today talking about these two guys. The verbal spat or stoush that's erupted around the Australian Open is because Novak said, I don't respect Nick Kyrgios off the court, right?
That's why I don't respect him.
Off the court. What has Nick Kyrgios done off the court recently? Okay, so there were the Australian bushfires. Nick Kyrgios almost took it on himself to raise money for the disaster relief. Organised a tournament with a number of the biggest names in world tennis, raised a truckload of money. What a good thing to do by Nick Kyrgios. Throughout the coronavirus pandemic, he spent $8,000 on groceries at one point. People are saying, oh, Nick Kyrgios is buying up everything. He's like, no, it's not for me. He was going out and personally delivering groceries to people in need, people who couldn't leave their homes for whatever reason, and he's taking them groceries. Meanwhile, Novak, he's organising the Adria Tour. There's no social distancing, full crowds, partying with his shirt off, as we mentioned earlier, contracting coronavirus. And also, the third string that I'd like to add to Nick Kyrgios' bow is the creation of the NK Foundation, the Nick Kyrgios Foundation. So he's trying to find a home or a facility for disadvantaged, underprivileged kids, so they've got somewhere to belong. They can play sport and feel good about themselves. So this is where I just can't agree with what Novak is saying about Nick Kyrgios, because off the court, I think he's proving himself to be a really decent individual. He's not talking about on-court antics where he's throwing rackets or he's mouthing off at people. And, you know, Nick Kyrgios is not alone when it comes to those antics. Andy Murray used to, when he was at the top of his game, he'd be mouthing off to the people in his players' box, effing and seeing and all that sort of carry on. Andy Murray seemed to get away with it. Why is Nick Kyrgios so polarising? I think off the court, he's proved that he is a decent individual. And that's why I take umbrage with what Novak said.
What's the biggest tool in the shed?
Serve.
No, this thing up here. It's us. This is the biggest tool in the shed.
Your eyebrow? Oh, I think you were pointing at your eyebrow. And I was
your
like,
brain. What's inside here? The top 2 inches. You know that thing?
Yeah.
Okay. When things get tough and things get difficult, and you got to fight your way through, and you got to get yourself into a fifth set. How many times has Djokovic done that? Yes, absolutely. How many times has Nick Kyrgios done that? He hasn't, because he hasn't got that level of commitment and discipline, and you'd have to say the willingness to change the attitude to get the performance and actually learn from his mistakes? Or no, I'll get fined again, I'll run my mouth, and guess what? When I get knocked out in the quarterfinals and Novak Djokovic is playing for another title, you wonder, how did that happen? Maybe I should have focused a little bit more on what was going on inside the white lines than getting on Twitter and Instagram and going, you know what, let's have a crack at the number one player in the world. How about you focus on some performance for a while, and when you've won, guess what? You can talk as much as you like.
Well, look, I'm going to put it down to this, and it's actually something that you said, Jeff, that triggered something in me, is, you know, those decisions in the moment, reacting to things. And if Novak Djokovic has an opinion on Nick Kyrgios, cool, that's your opinion of him. Is right now the best time to voice that out to the public? Probably not. The Australian Open, in my opinion, has been tainted with throwing toys out of the cot, we've already spoken about, complaints. It's not good enough when these players are actually bloody lucky to be on court at all, like it's been made to happen. And I feel like that's been put behind, and drama and gossip and this, you said this about me and you said that about me, has really shown that it's been quite bratty. And I don't appreciate that when I sit back and I think about what a great event the Australian Open really is. I think Novak Djokovic should have kept his mouth shut at this point of time in the tournament. And once it was all said and done, go ahead and express your views. You have, an obligation to serve at this tournament, like you say quite often in terms of sportsmanship. So I'm going with Goran on this one.
Boom.
I'm with you too. To be fair, I think they both should lose. Yeah. Oh, look, I actually have zero respect for both of them. Other than the little bit I do have is for Djokovic's obviously tennis ability, but
totally,
that's unquestionable.
Yeah.
But I think both of them make questionable decisions in regards to their behaviour. Kyrgios more on the court, and Djokovic is obviously off the court.
Yeah. Although from time to time it does creep into Novak's play on court. I.e. the Australian Open with the foot pat, the hitting of the ball into the line umpire. I mean, he's played enough tennis to know that there are people around.
How many suspensions and fines has he had?
Well, he got defaulted out of the US Open.
How many suspensions and fines has he had? How many?
I mean, defaulting out of the US Open would be bigger than anything that's happened to Nick Kyrgios, sure. As the best player on the face of the planet.
Tanking again?
As the number one.
As the number one, Jeff.
Hold on. So are you telling me that
Wake
he deliberately...
up,
No. Are you telling me he deliberately hit the ball at the...
Yeah.
Oh, stop it. He did not.
And then he was hoping that his number one status was going to get him off the charge.
Did not.
And it didn't get him off the charge, which I was very happy about. And I think Dominic Thiem went on to win.
Yeah, he did.
I love Dominic Thiem.
I really do hope Novak sees you this. I'm not sure he will, but he's going to come after you.
Cool, bring it on.
Yeah.
Looking forward
Bring it
to
on.
it. All right, well, let's put the tennis to bed. Congratulations, Goran.
Thanks.
And let's get into our next case. We're discussing...
Glad you came back, Jeff.
What's that? I was set up.
Here.
I was set up. But that's all right. Oh, that's all right.
I'm pretty sure I've heard Goran say that before, actually.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, every week.
You won with Nick Kyrgios. That's pretty bloody good.
Wow. Jeez. I could cry. Tears of joy.
Hey, that's the only one Nick Kyrgios is going to get in the next couple of weeks.
Please. He won in the first round. He's playing later tonight.
That's right. Yeah, everyone wins in the first round.
Okay.
Not Benoit Paire.
All right. Calm down. Settle down. It's over. It's done. All right? Carrying on. Now we are talking the Māori All Stars versus the Indigenous All Stars. So it's come out that Nathan Brown held back Tohu Harris, Cody Nikorima and Chanel Tevita Harris from taking part in the Indigenous game this time around, citing that he did not want to distract from Warriors' preparations, considering it's been pretty rocky and tumultuous over the Christmas break. On the other hand, there's been a big outcry that it was perhaps culturally insensitive for him to do so, or insensitive full stop. What do you boys think?
Well, I don't believe that it's insensitive. I think it's the sensible thing to do. And if anybody's got an issue with Nathan Brown, I think it's that they shouldn't. The Warriors, the season that they just played last year, it extended later than what it usually does because of COVID-19. They've had a really interesting off-season where they've had team members training in Auckland, team members training in Australia. Only last month did they all come together. So for me, it's a no-brainer. Those guys don't play the game. Yeah,
look, it's a really difficult one for Nathan Brown because he's got a responsibility with the Warriors. He has to get results. He's a coach. He'll be judged on his results. The Warriors are the ones who are contracting these players. He's got to try and prepare for a season. Look, I take... The biggest challenge I have here is the fact that this game, when these two teams go at it, they go at it big time. Like, this is, you start... It all sort of starts with the confrontation is there and there's physicality, but it always ramps up and it ends up having a state of origin, physicality, intensity about it. And this is the first major hit out of the year, and you're putting players at risk, And I think if you're any coach across the NRL, you're looking at it going, the only outcome I want at the end of the game is my players to come through and be healthy, because we've got a campaign in front of us we have to deliver on. So for Nathan Brown, he's looking at this and going, key playmakers, key leaders. I've got Roger Tuivasa-Sheck for one more season. I need everyone on song here the moment we hit the ground running so I can get a result, get us to the playoffs, to the knockout stages of the NRL, so I can protect the investment that they have made, and not just me, but in these players. It's the timing of the game is I have a challenge with the fact. Now, yes, this game has always been played at this time of the year. They need to revisit that because, for me, there's so much passion, so much drive, so much competitiveness between these two talented teams that when they go out there, they're going to leave everything on that field. And I think that they need to consider the fact that they are putting, I think, some clubs' performances of the season at risk for one game at the start of a season where really they're not prepared and ready for. They crack a rib, or all of a sudden they're a month out. And he's talked about that, the fact that you're going to lose them when they come back. They're going to be banged up. They're not going to be able to train. So that it doesn't help their preparation. And look, we know the challenges everyone had last year with the Warriors. It was a huge effort for them to go and play across the ditch. He needs every opportunity, all the time he can possibly get with his key guys to set the tone and get it right. Because the other thing as well, he needs to get this year right, knowing that he's going to lose his most influential player to rugby union in Tuivasa-Sheck. So, it's pure and simply around he said it himself, he's being a bit selfish, but he's doing it for a very, very good reason, and he's trying to protect the Warriors,
So if Jeff and I are best buds on this one, where do you sit?
Well, I 100% agree with what you guys are saying. Logistically, it's been an absolute nightmare. Having a pre-season in two different countries, who does that? And the strain that the Warriors have had just to commit to them and their families living in another country for a whole season for the sake of basically the NRL staying afloat has been a huge ask in itself. So when Nathan Brown says, I'm here to do a job and I'm going to do this, that's what he's going to do and that's his priority, you 100% get that. But in the same token, this is probably because I'm Māori myself, it's hard not to look at it from a cultural perspective. Because at the end of the day, this game was put in place for a reason. And it's the only time of the year where there's no other games being played, because when you get to the end of middle of the season, you've got Origin. End of the season, you've got tests, and all sorts of other things are happening. And I don't want to say it in a negative way, but they've slipped it in at this time of the year. Now, you don't have all your core players in that Indigenous Māori game because you must be, of course, of Indigenous descent. Just so happens we have a lot of them in the Warriors, and that's the reality of our diverse team. We talk about, Roger Tuivasa's last season. This could possibly be Tohu's, and this could be his last chance to play for the Māori All Stars. So it'll be interesting to see how they feel about it, because to me, as a Māori, being a part of something like this is more than competing in the game. You're engulfed in haka, waiata, te reo Māori, kaupapa, tikanga, and all those things that make you an even stronger player. And I think if Warriors players are in that environment, it would make them stronger to come back to the squad with. But in that instance, what do you do if they're injured? And cut them at the knees
battle for the rest of the
start.
season. Nathan Brown has made the right call. He's employed as the Warriors head coach. What is he there to do? He's there to take them to the playoffs, and hopefully, fingers crossed for Warriors fans out there, win an NRL premiership.
Agreed.
And
Isn't
he can't do that.
This is the year, right? Isn't this the year?
I think this is the final
the
year that you can say
This
that
is
with
the
Roger
year.
Tuivasa-Sheck still in their ranks.
There's always somebody else. And
This is true.
They've got a lot to deal with next year when they lose, Roger. But
Well, back in your day, it was like, there's only one Jeff Wilson. How do we replace Jeff Wilson?
that was easy. That was a piece of cake. Didn't take long. Jeff who?
5 in the tunnel.
Jeff who? Who's that guy? Oh yeah, no problem at all.
No, but it just happens in sport, isn't it? Oh, Grant Fox. How are we going to replace Grant Fox? Oh, look, there's Andrew Merton.
Nobody's to replace him.
Oh, there's Dan Carter. There's Bowden Barrett. There's Richie Mo'unga. So.
Oh, are you saying Richie Mo'unga's replaced? Let's not go down.
Oh,
there.
no.
We're only just started. We're only just starting.
Can of
I
worms.
love Bowden Barrett.
We all love Bowden Barrett.
Yeah, we love him.
Well, on that topic, Jeff, of Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, obviously flipping over to rugby next year with officially the Blues. Where do you see him playing? Because this has come up a couple times without you, but where would you see him playing in a Blues makeup?
Interesting. I've done some background research, played in the midfield when he was at school and then went on to Blues under-18s, representative rugby there, secondary schools. What I do know and understand is that the All Blacks have had a big play, New Zealand rugby's had a big part to play in his contracting, right? So they'll be looking long-term for the All Blacks and looking at positions that they need. And at the moment, I think the midfield is the area that they'll be looking at him. If you think next year, inside him, Bowden Barrett, outside him, Rieko Ioane in the midfield for the Blues. I think that is probably... I'd like to see him at fullback because I know of his great counter-attacking ability, but with his experience having played in the midfield at school and his understanding, not a lot of kicking game necessary in rugby league. So, his ability to create, you watch him, he's got great hands, he's got great feet, he's got great acceleration. My concern was the fact that how would he go defensively if he's played in the midfield? That's a spot. But that's I think for the All Blacks. If you look at the depth in our midfield, in terms particularly at second 5'8", that's probably a position they'll be looking at going, you know what, we'd probably like some more depth in that position. Mind you, Ngani Laumapi, he can play. You've got Anton Leonard-Brown, you've got Jack Goodhue. It's not like Braden Ennall's going to come back from injury. It's not like but it seems as though in the outside backs, guess what? We just keep finding them. They're just there. Caleb Clark, Sevu Reece, George Bridge, Will Jordan, Geordie Barrett. I mean, it's not like we
haven't mentioned Bodie yet.
But that's exactly it. He's the first 5, remember?
Yeah, he is.
He is the first 5.
Never forget.
There's a young kid, Zahn Sullivan, who's starting for he'll be running around the Blues this year. So, look at that talent level on the outsides. All of a sudden you're going, you know what? He's familiar in the midfield. I would say the Blues are looking to play him in the midfield, and all of a sudden that would be pretty formidable through that. So, I would say the All Blacks have had a bit to say. And the Blues are going, well, where do we need players? Yeah, we, in the midfield, having some other options there would be pretty good because they're probably a little bit skinny there, the Blues, and the All Blacks as well, looking for depth.
What happens if it doesn't work?
Yeah.
What happens if he turns into, Benji Marshall under SJK at the Blues?
Different stage in his career, different type of abilities. The physicality of Roger Tuivasa-Sheck cannot be underestimated. He's tough, hits hard, defensively he's strong, and the familiarity of playing the game. You play it right to the end of your schooling days. Hey, it's a different dynamic than when Benji came back to rugby union.
That's us, boys.
Cool.
Goran, congratulations.
Thanks. I thought we'd forgotten it. It was chatted so long. I thought we'd forgotten about that result. We're looking way back at... Now maybe I'm on your side. Maybe I don't like Djokovic. Yeah, deep down.
You can come back anytime, mate.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Well, you needed to win one at some point.
Yeah.
You were definitely overdue.
Yeah.
What do
they say about a broken clock? It's right 2 times a day, so...
I never want this clock to happen again. Never again.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us this week. Always a pleasure, and I'm sure we will see you back here soon.
I don't know. Do you get a second chance here? Do you get cut? Do you get... I thought once you're gone and you lose to you, it's that.
No.
It's all over.
Mate, when you lose to me, you're welcome back anytime.
Yeah, what about Jeff next week? No, bring him back.
He's in.
Pleasure, always a pleasure. Well done, mate. Well done.
And thank you for watching at home. Goran and I, of course, will be back here next week putting everything in sport on trial. Mā te wā.